Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay Devin.
So, Mr. Speaker, I guess he won't debate our leader. Mr. Speaker, we're discussing improvements in education. The fact that our Francophone school sector is the fastest improving sector in the country is something to be proud of as a New Brunswicker. For 4 straight years, this sector has continuously improved. But the trend of one sector fast and continuously improving is alarming, whereas we have 2 sectors in our province. Either way, it still presents a good opportunity. First, we must understand this trend. I asked the Minister of Education for the 3rd day in a row to tell New Brunswick about this trend of how one sector is fast improving.
Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I answered that question numerous times yesterday, whereas we want to congratulate the sector, the Francophone sector, for achieving good results, Mr. Speaker. And there's still a lot more improvement that we have to make, and that's what we're going to do with our record investments in education, making sure we put the priorities in the right place. But, Mr. Speaker, as we talked about it yesterday, is that we're going to be sharing those best practices, what the Francophone sector does with the Francophone sector does an excellent job taking the community at heart, working with their community. They have also examples in the GSF and the PALC, which is a policy that's put in place to make sure we work with the communities, working with the cultural sector, and really embracing education, Mr. Speaker. Also, the Francophone sector does a great job on performance management, and we're going to be using those performance management measures also in our Anglophone sector that we did table on the floor of the legislature too long ago with the 2 education plans. And, Mr. Speaker, we're really proud of working with our educators throughout the entire province, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay Devin.
Mr. Speaker, the community effort he's speaking of, I think we can both agree that both English and French-speaking people in our province both take great pride in the education of their children and their communities. But not understanding the detail for what one sector is actually doing to get these results is prohibiting me from helping the minister to be successful in his portfolio. We know that learning, sharing, and leveraging best practices is the best way to improve education results in the world. So I'm going to ask the minister today, what are we doing to ensure that we are sharing what's working in the Francophone sector with the Anglophone sector? What are we doing as a province to understand how they're improving and sharing this knowledge?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to say today, unlike the opposition opposite, where they muzzled the principals for years, and this year, for the first time, we've had principals from around the province get together to share best practices. We have people communicating, Mr. Speaker, and that's what we didn't have before. We feel that our education sector is doing some great work on the Anglophone sector, talking about digital literacy, talking about all of the advancements we're making in the technology sector, Mr. Speaker, in math. The Anglophone sector is actually sharing those best practices with the Francophone sector. So it's about working together, Mr. Speaker. And what we see here today, day after day after day, is trying to find, again, a wedge issue to try and divide and conquer here in the province, Mr. Speaker. And that is wrong. It's wrong, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about the good things that we're doing here in education. I'm asking the opposition once again to talk about the good things in education, Mr. Speaker, and not try and find a divide and conquer issue here in the province.
Member for Southwest Miramichi Bay Devin.
Mr. Speaker, I am talking about the good things. The good thing that our Francophone sector. I mean, it's hard to believe that somebody on the opposition bench would actually discover this and then celebrate this for the Francophone sector of our province. So what I would say, Mr. Speaker, is he's not answering the question. The details are important. The hard work of New Brunswick teachers must be celebrated, and we have some of the best in Canada. And we know they need government most of the time to be out of their way and support the progress. We know that for years, the ability to learn, share, and leverage best practices was almost non-existent, leaving our teachers alone, high and dry. Part of the reorganization of the former government to reorganize the districts was to break down the silos. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask today, what are we doing to ensure the new money invested in this budget is being spent in the right way? Have we learned from the Francophone example and allocated resources in that manner?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing, and we are going to be making sure that the resources that we have are put in the right place to be able to help all of our students throughout the province, Mr. Speaker. We're looking at taking the best practices from both the Anglophone sector, the Francophone sector, working with our educators. I've been throughout the province since I've been Minister of Education and Early Childhood Development, visiting the schools, seeing the faces light up in the classroom where they see innovation taking place, Mr. Speaker, seeing the principals and the teachers working with other schools, having the districts working together, both on the Francophone and Anglophone sector. There's many, many, many examples, Mr. Speaker, where our education system is doing great things for our students, working with their families, working with their communities. This is not just about teachers. This is about taking the whole community working together to be able to educate our children here, Mr. Speaker. And that's what we're doing in the Department of Education, is working with our collaborators to make sure that we have the best education system moving forward and putting record investments in the right place.